I the a-hole for telling my daughter to go ask her bio family for money? My daughter, 26, is adopted. She started meeting her bio family after she had her son 3 years ago. I never went against her decision to have her bio family in her life. I've always encouraged her to give them a chance, especially her bio mom. But I noticed I was being gradually pushed to the side. Not just me, but the family too. No more Sunday dinners, no more trips, no more pictures, and not even weekly phone calls like we used to have. I figured she was busy being a mom, and she confirmed that, but her Facebook page showed me otherwise. There were tons of pictures of her visiting her bio family, and tons of pictures with my grandson. I realized she was making excuses to skip family time with us to be with her bio family more. Whenever her dad and I brought this up with her, she turned it into an argument in which she'd call us too sensitive or too jealous, or not giving her space to get to know her bio family better. We had one big argument and she never spoke again. After, she said no matter how much love and eagerness we show her bio family's love is greater and more natural. She stayed gone for months until her husband Thomas, who's always been struggling with heart condition, gotten worse. He is in the end stage of heart failure and is required to have an LVAD implant, but my daughter cannot afford it. Lately, she's been coming over a lot to talk about Thomas's condition. We do what we can to comfort her, but she brought up the piece of land we have for my 14-year-old son's education. I refused to even have this conversation, but she kept pushing for us to sell the land and help her get the device. I said I was sorry, but that will go to her brother, who sees me and her dad as his parents, and isn't willing to replace us like she did, and then told her to go ask her bio family for the money. She was shocked, and said that she couldn't believe how conditional my love for her was, and that I care more about being petty than my grandson's future with both parents, not a widowed mother. She started crying, calling us unsupportive, and that this is the time we show her we're true family, instead of showing conditional love and act petty at her husband's expense. I said I'm sorry about Thomas, but that is all I had to say. She left and we haven't heard from her since then. My husband says Thomas and our grandson are innocent, and maybe we should help out now then settle our conflict later. But that is a lot of money that I feel I'm not obligated to give, even without the whole drama from her bio family. I'm upset, but I don't resent my daughter as she's struggling with a lot. But at this point, I feel like she's only keeping us around for money, given that we paid for many things in the past while her bio family did nothing. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hull. She's the one showing conditional love. And if a bio family's love is greater and more natural, then why aren't they paying? I want to be really petty and say that greater and more natural love wasn't enough for them to keep her and raise her, but I know that's a low blow. At this point, I would not sell the land and give her money. She has shown that she only wants money now, so it's on her to figure it out. Most states have some form of welfare/social services to help gravely ill people, so she should explore that option. I feel very sad for you and your grandson. You loved her and raised her, and now your relationship has been reduced to a transactional state. She really should be ashamed of herself. Money was the only reason she started speaking to her parents again. She knew that the money existed and wanted to use her parents' love for her as a weak point to get the money for herself/her husband. Like every con artist, she did her groundwork first, pouring out a sob story, getting the parents reinvested in her life. Then she moved on to the con. She hit them with an ultimatum. Give me the kids' college fund or else I will say that your love is conditional. Her father is falling for the con. Fortunately, Mom has recognized that it's daughter's love that's conditional, and that even if they were willing to sacrifice the brother's future to buy her love, it wouldn't work. She's already chosen her bio family. Opie, don't let your husband try to buy her love. You can offer to help her with fundraisers, but that college money is non-negotiable. She won't want your help though. She only wants the cash. You'd end up being without her love and being without money for Son's education too. He shouldn't suffer because his parents fell for his sister's con and sold his future to try buy his sister's love. My father tries to buy my sister's love, and it breaks my heart because she hasn't visited him in 10+ years and only calls to ask for money and uses her daughter as an excuse. Opie, please don't let your husband buy her love. It will only end up hurting him and you in the long run, while the daughter continues to use and use without any actual love and care in return. I'm very curious about the reason and terms for her adoption, but I've noticed a trend in AITA posts where adopted children find their birth family after they become adults, then ditch the people who raised them. It's quite heartbreaking. Daughter's birth family didn't raise her for a reason. Opie did. Cutting them off and then asking for money is horrible on her part. Not today, Hull. Love is always conditional. Treat someone like dirt and they will stop loving you. Holy crap, that hit me hard for some reason. You're absolutely right. People love to say that it's unconditional, yet it's simply not at the end of the day. This is a tough one, but your daughter seems a bit manipulative and demanding, so not stay home. Or desperate. Or entitled. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her bi family are not on my wedding invite list anymore? I'm 1 of 5 and we're all adopted. Some through foster care, others are infants. My sister was adopted as an infant and reconnected with her bi family 5 years ago. Growing up as the only 2 girls in the family, we were close. And then when she found her bi parents and bi sisters, it all changed. I pulled back a lot when I saw her post about finally having sisters on social media. I ignored her for months. And then when I found the strength to talk to her, I was honest that her attitude around them does hurt me. That being discarded and dismissed as a sister hurt. She apologized, we went to therapy together, and eventually introduced the rest of our family to her bi family. They get invited to family stuff now. And when I got engaged, she asked me if I would invite her bi family. I said sure, if she wanted. That was last year. Wedding isn't for many months yet, so no invites or anything. But my sister started talking about needing a bigger family section, needing to make sure the photographer can get a huge group into more intimate photos. I asked her what she meant. She said with her bio family. I said they weren't being included as family of mine. She told me they should be, but I said no. They were being invited as guests. We then had a fight about it. She accused me of mistreating them. She told me I was rude to them, that I never gave them a chance, and I resented them for existing. I told her no, but that didn't mean I was going to treat them like they're my family. She told me she would, and now she thinks I should. That I should show I don't hold any feelings about the past and what happened. I told her I wasn't willing to do what she wanted, and she told me that makes me an a-hole because it's not good to make her family feel like outsiders, and it shows a lack of love for her if I'm not willing to accept her family as my family. She sent me a long message afterward telling me they're important to her, and that they will always be her family, will always have that extra special connection to her, and that I need to be okay with that. And that it's on me to make that effort because I had a reaction I did when she first made contact and wrote the post. I considered everything, and decided it would be better off not inviting them at all, because she was never going to let it go. I told her I was no longer inviting them, and she tried to pick another fight with me, but I didn't engage. She told me I was behaving like a child and being an a-hole to her and them. Am I the a-hole? I don't understand her reasoning. Just because those are her bi family and she's close with them, it doesn't automatically make them your family. You already have your siblings and your parents. She really thinks your bi parents are now your second set of parents? If her bi family are reasonable people, there's no way they'd be insulted or upset for not being included in the family pictures. They're being invited to one of the biggest events in your life. That is definitely not considered being mistreated. Info, how old is your sister? She needs to grow up and do it fast. What on earth is wrong with these people? If I was a part of Opie's sister's bi family, I'd be ashamed of this behavior. Is she forgetting that they're her bi family but not yours? And to take this one step farther, if her bi parents are now your second set of parents, shouldn't they help foot the bill for the wedding? She clearly is not done working through some things related to being adopted. Adopted kid who is in touch with my own bi family here. While important to her, this is not her wedding. That she is making this a larger deal, and sounds likely to cause a commotion at your actual wedding, you are well within your rights to decide to no longer invite them. This also seems like a large number of people you will also be paying for to make your sister happy. Definitely not stay home. Honestly, with all the horror stories of adopted kids who find their bi family, the ones that gave them away, and suddenly decide that the parents and siblings who were there from the beginning are now somehow less important just because they don't share DNA, would put a lot of people off of adopting. Your sister's bi family is her bi family, not yours. And she shouldn't be berating you into giving them any role in your wedding than any other guest should get. There is a whole TikTok world of adoptees talking crap on their adoptive parents and saying adoption should never exist. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin she doesn't get to call my wife a terrible mother when she had abandoned her child years ago? Alright, I'm gonna get right to it, folks. Yesterday, I went over to my mother's house to talk about the accident that happened with my 3-year-old, who tripped off the stairs and injured his knee while I was at work. He's fine, nothing serious, but my mother was freaking out and wanted me to tell her what happened, details. The family was there, so I explained what happened. And my female cousin then chimed in and said, "Oh my god, where the hell was this boy's mother? Was she even home?" I said she was, but was in the kitchen when he fell and couldn't prevent it. My cousin then leaned back and said, "How could she? I cannot imagine leaving my 3-year-old unattended for so long. What a terrible mother your wife is, honestly." I'm fuming at this point, so I look at her and ask if she is serious, and she gives me the most dense look I've ever seen. I told her she had no right to call my wife a terrible mother after she, my cousin, abandoned her kids in foster care years ago. She looks at me grudgingly and tells me that that was years ago when she was too young and not ready to be a mother. Besides, her parents made her give away her son. But I told her that is when she failed as a mother, because she essentially didn't fight for her kid and abandoned him so easily. She lashed out at me saying her circumstances were difficult then, and I could not blame her. But if she's to commit to be a mom, which she will in the future, she's 22 by the way, she will step up and parent her kids, which is something my wife needs to be doing instead of spending time in the kitchen for her internet clout. We argued back and forth, and she ended up leaving the room crying after I said she's a failure of a mother if she thinks my wife is terrible then. My mother berated me for my unnecessary cruelty and having a habit of bringing up my cousin's unpleasant past to win an argument. I said that wasn't true, as she was insulting my wife's motherhood, but my mother agreed my wife was being neglectful towards our son, and that she needed to focus less on her Facebook blogs and more on family. I ended up arguing with her too, then left. My wife got involved in the argument, after my mother called her to berate her and told her to tell me to apologize to my cousin for what I said. Now for the comments. Not today, home, but going forward you need to put your family on an information diet. Your mother does not need to know every bump and bruise, and even bigger injuries don't have to be detailed for her. There was a small accident, everybody's fine is enough. If there's truly an issue with your wife needing to be more diligent with your child's care, that is something that needs to be addressed, but your mother doesn't need to have any part in that. I'm glad your kiddo is going to be okay. I love info diet. My mother's on that. All answers, everyone is fine, school is good, and they're all doing well. How are you doing? Then she'll talk about herself. She's an arc and lives that. She gets no info to use against me or my family later. I cut her off for about 6 months, and it was hard on my dad. So now it's very much info diet with low contact. It's working so far. Your cousin is a hypocrite, and kids are fast. I can't even pee without hearing a crash from something my 4-year-old did. Not today, home. There are a few people in here suggesting a baby gate. My now 4-year-old completely destroyed every baby gate we had. Even the ones nailed it to the walls, at just 2 years old. If it works for you, great. Some kids have Herculean strength though. It's like the child-proof medicine bottles that kids can open but adults can't. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he overreacted over a piece of cake? Hi. So my husband, male 32, and I, female 24, are expecting our first baby together. I'm 7 months in. My in-laws are lovely people. My mother-in-law had some not-so-major fights with her husband and has been staying with us for a few days. Her birthday was yesterday, and because of her emotional and mental state, my husband decided to throw her a surprise party and invite his siblings. He got everything ready, and I was home alone when the cake arrived from the bakery. To give some info, the cake was big and had my mother-in-law's favorite flavor, strawberry. I asked my husband for some snack as I was craving really badly, but he didn't get them. To be honest, I got a bit tempted whenever I looked at the cake and decided to cut a small piece of it. I didn't think it was a big deal until my husband saw it and flipped out asking why I ruined the cake and cut a piece of it. I said I was sorry but was craving something sweet. He said that was supposed to be his mother's birthday cake, and I embarrassed him by taking a piece of it instead of waiting till the party in just a few hours. I said I should have been the one to handle it if he didn't think I was up to the task, but he went off saying he couldn't believe how childish I was with zero impulse control, to be blaming him instead of checking myself and not being supportive. This made me upset because there were a ton of other stuff he asked me to do and I did it. He kept arguing, saying I just cost him the piece of cake, and an utter embarrassment when his mom sees that I ate from her cake. I looked at him and told him he overreacted over a piece of cake, and asked if a piece of cake was more important than his son, and that I was sure his mom will understand that I took my piece of cake in advance because I really couldn't help myself, but he said this wasn't about me, and I have to just admit I messed up and ruined his work, then went upstairs. I refused to come off the room to celebrate after he told me to stay there, and I explained to his mom what happened, and she didn't say anything, though I noticed she was bothered. He keeps telling me to apologize, otherwise he won't speak to me nor acknowledge my presence in the house. Ask if a piece of cake was more important than his son. Stop trying to manipulate him. Your unborn son did not want the cake. You did. You know good and well that if someone cut a piece of your birthday cake before you even got a chance to see it, you would have a fit. You're the a-hole. For real. That line bothered me the most as it was such a stretch and 100% manipulative. Also, is Opie 5-year-old? Who just can't control themselves around birthday cake and doesn't understand how bad of etiquette it is to take a piece before the person celebrating their birthday even gets to see it. Opie owes some apologies. During my 8.5 months of pregnancy so far and all of my cravings, I've never once thought of myself before others, waking my boyfriend at 2 a.m. for ice cream, eating someone's cake before the event, etc. And my baby is fine and healthy. The fact that Opie attempted to manipulate her husband and guilt him is disgusting. You're the a-hole big time. Reminds me of the Opie who ate the cake her significant other specifically made for her to eat and into Denise's birthday caterpillar cake because, tee-hee, the baby wanted cake. Girl, please. Your greedy, selfish self wanted cake and decided that your wants and needs come before everyone else. Being pregnant doesn't mean your crap doesn't suddenly stink. Honey, you tripping if you think you are not the a-hole here. Apologize and be done with us. Your husband is absolutely right. You lack impulse control and you not only embarrass him, you embarrassed yourself. Am I the a-hole for treating my coworker differently after she accused me of SA when I saved her life? I'm a quiet guy and genuinely friendly. I treat all my coworkers as friends. About 2 months ago, during a work lunch, one of my coworkers started choking, so I did a Heimlich maneuver to help her. After she was in the clear, the others cheered. I asked if she was alright, and she just nodded and headed to the bathroom without a word, so I didn't think much about it. Until 2 days later, when I got called into HR for my inappropriate behavior. I was confused and asked for more details. That's when they told me that my coworker had filed a complaint stating that she felt my touches while I was helping her were inappropriate, that my body was too close, and that she felt my private touching her. I gave my statement and they put me on ice. I was still working, but with the potential to be removed, while they investigated further. After a week, I was in the clear. I returned to working normally without fear, but I started distancing myself from that coworker. She tried to apologize, which I accepted, and she tried to explain that she has trauma and should have told me. But I still took precautions and only treated her as just a colleague. I no longer talk to her unless needed, always keep my distance. I no longer invite her out unless there are others present. She could feel my hesitation toward her, and how I no longer treat her the same as others. She tried to say that I'm being ridiculous and petty, but I told her that I'm just looking after myself. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. So she falsely accused you of SA when you saved her life in front of a crowd using a widely known medical technique? I would hope your company is looking for a way to let her go, because this lunatic is a massive liability to have around. Not only that, next time she chokes, everyone will be too afraid to help her. That would be a play stupid games, win stupid prizes moment. You have to avoid her now. That's the answer. You weren't fired this time, but she has the power to get you fired, and you do not sacrifice yourself in this situation. That will not solve anything and will only cause you harm. Not the a-hole. You literally saved her life, and she repaid you by filing a false SA complaint that could have ruined your career and reputation. Her having trauma doesn't excuse potentially destroying someone's life after they helped her. Your new boundaries are completely reasonable. Keeping interactions professional and distancing yourself is the smart move to protect yourself. You could have been fired or labeled as a predator over performing a medical emergency procedure. She's upset because she has to face the consequences of her actions. She can't accuse someone of SA and then expect the relationship to go back to normal just because she apologized. You're not being petty, you're being prudent. WTF? Falsely accusing someone of SA is no damn joke, and she expects things to remain the same? Her apology doesn't cut it. Stay far away, please. Not the a-hole in any way. She only apologized after the investigation concluded and he was found innocent. That speaks volumes about her character. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reporting my coworker to management for touching and smelling my hair? So I, 28 female, work at a tech company and it's generally a relaxed environment. Most of my coworkers are pretty chill and I get along with everyone, including Tom, 35 male. We work on the same team, but I don't interact with him too much outside of team meetings and casual office chats. That said, things have gotten really uncomfortable lately, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting, so I need some advice. About a month ago, I was sitting at my desk working, and Tom walked by and, without saying anything, reached over and brushed his fingers through my hair. I was stunned, but I didn't say anything. Just awkwardly laughed it off, assuming it was a one-off thing. But then it started happening more and more. Every time he'd walk by my desk, he'd touch my hair, sometimes lightly running his fingers through it. It started feeling weird, but I just didn't know how to handle it. Then one day, it crossed the line. I was in the break room getting coffee, and Tom came up behind me and smelled my hair. He just leaned in, took a deep breath, and said something like, "Your hair smells so good. What kind of shampoo do you use?" I was completely horrified. I didn't know what to say, so I just muttered a quick answer and walked away. I couldn't believe it. After that, it only got worse. He would sometimes stand a little too close to me when talking, and I'd catch him sniffing the air around me like he was trying to smell my hair again. He'd even comment on it like, "Your hair always smells so fresh. I wish I knew what scent that is." I tried to brush it off, but it felt more and more invasive every time. Finally, a few days ago, after I did it again during a meeting, I couldn't stay silent any longer. I felt grossed out and violated. I went to HR and explained the situation, including how Tom had repeatedly touched and smelled my hair without my consent. I told them I felt uncomfortable and had tried to ignore it, but it had gone on long enough. HR assured me they'd take care of it. A couple of days later, Tom came to me visibly upset. He asked why I went to HR and said, "I didn't think it was a big deal. I was just complimenting you on your hair. It's no different than someone saying they like your shoes." I told him it wasn't just a compliment. It was an invasion of my personal space, and I had asked him to stop before, but he didn't listen. He then said I was overreacting, that I was making things awkward, and that I should have just told him to stop instead of reporting him. A few people from our team have been talking about it, and some say I made a mountain out of a molehill, that I should have just handled it directly with him. Now I'm feeling conflicted. I don't want to be the person who overreacts, but I also feel like his behavior was crossing serious boundaries. Was I wrong for going to HR? Should I have just told him to stop? So, am I the a-hole for reporting Tom to management instead of just asking him to stop? Not the a-hole. That was seriously creepy behavior. I don't know how you let him even touch your hair to begin with. I think being a woman makes you allow things that you shouldn't allow. In the future, don't allow anybody to invade your personal space in any way. Seriously, you have nothing to feel guilty about. Nothing. It's also sexual harassment, especially if he's saying that it's the same as a compliment to your shoes. It is not. I'd also report that he came and berated you about the situation to HR, since his answer should have been okay and then stopped interacting with you. Be safe. Report his reaction to HR. He needs to understand that his behavior and his reaction are both unacceptable. Don't let him intimidate you into accepting this kind of behavior. This absolutely qualifies as harassment and could end up creating a toxic work environment for you. When I was in my 20s, I had very similar experiences. It took decades for me to learn how to stand up for myself. Please, OP, listen to your gut in these situations. Don't worry about your coworkers' opinions. Seriously, when you eventually leave your job, you won't ever hear from half of them again. What's most important is that you are comfortable in your place of work. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I bought the motion-activated door chime from my office because my partner keeps scaring me? Me and my partner both work from home. During the day, I work out of his spare room and he works out of the living room. So during work hours, these two spaces essentially function as two offices. I will refer to the room I work in as my office for simplicity's sake, but it is not for my exclusive use. And there is a second bathroom that can only be accessed through the spare room. I scare extremely easily. I usually keep the door open unless one of us is on a call, but very frequently my husband will walk in the room and scare me really badly. I'll scream and jump, and for a few seconds, I genuinely cannot control my reaction. Sometimes, I feel like I almost white out because it scares me so much. I don't handle it very well. A good scare will leave me shaking for hours afterward. I know I'm very sensitive to being startled and that it's an unreasonable reaction, but I genuinely cannot control it. I have some trauma in my past that contributes to this, but I'm working with a therapist. My partner takes a great deal of offense to my reactions, even though I try to explain that I can't control them. Sometimes when he startles me like that, I'll say something like, "Why did you do that?" Or, "Why do you keep doing that?" as a reflex, and that hurts his feelings. I always apologize and try to assure him it's not personal. It's just what comes out of my mouth when I'm scared. But I can tell it really bothers him. I've asked him to just pause and knock before he comes in, but that's not really fair since it's his home too, and the room isn't exclusively mine. However, the scares are bad enough that they can greatly impact my workday. I know this seems extreme, but a good scare makes me feel like my brain turns off for a while until I can get a hold of myself again. I suggested this morning, after a particularly bad scare, that maybe I should get a motion sensor door chime, like the ones they have in shops. I could install it in the hall just before my door and put the noisemaker on my desk so that I'll hear the noise and know he's coming. My partner thinks that's over the top, but I want to find a solution that will work. Would I be the a-hole if I just bought a chime and set it up? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, but why is he coming through your office so frequently? If it's for the bathroom, why can't he use the other bathroom? Get a sensor. There's no good reason not to have one. And if there's no good reason for him to be walking through your workspace so often, then he is trying to undermine you. Usually it's to come chat with me, but it can also be to grab something since the room has storage in it. He used to come through to use the bathroom when he had to go number 2, but I put my foot down on that because it felt so awkward for me to try to work just 6 feet from where he was using the bathroom. Also, the smell would linger for ages. So now he uses the other bathroom pretty much exclusively. He's doing this to you on purpose. Yep, I have a very overreactive startled response too. My husband though, he'll call out to me before coming up to me unawares. He actively tries to minimize my stress. Actively. Not the a-hole. Look, I have a childhood trauma caused PTSD. A very active startle reflex, which is what you are describing, is one of the symptoms. You cannot help it. It is part of who you are. You need to find a way to make this work. If it's a door chime, so be it. For me, it would be locking the dang doors so they have to knock. If you let them in right away, you aren't blocking their access to a shared room. Shared rooms don't mean everybody has 100% access all the time. You have the right to privacy, safety, and limits. Here's my example. What triggers me is sound and movement, like when you work in a cubicle and your boss walks up behind you and starts talking. Yeah, I would jump, startle in my chair, and let out a scream every time. So, what did this boss do? He learned that he either waits to talk to me when I notice him, or stands still and talks to me. No more jump scares. No more screaming. That was a boss. Not a man who loved me and was supposed to be my partner. Just some dude who could have made my life hell, but cared enough to learn and change his behavior. Your partner needs to step up. Part of my being easily scared definitely comes from my childhood. I grew up in a borderline cult and wasn't allowed privacy as a kid. So I spent a lot of time getting caught for doing things I wasn't supposed to, like reading secular literature. I think that led me to feel like I'm always in trouble or something. I'm working on it, but I don't really have access to regular therapy at this time. I know there's nothing he could catch me doing that would get me in trouble, but I feel like that fear still kind of exists. Mini update. Sorry, I'm a little overwhelmed.
A lot of people are saying he's doing it on purpose, and I hadn't thought of that. I'm more than entertaining that idea now. I'm going to try my best to reply to comments. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for showing my sister the same amount of care she showed me when my ex-boyfriend turned out abusive? My older sister Anna has always been opinionated and judgmental. She sees the world in black and white and barely shows empathy toward people, even her own family, unless they're exactly like her. She doesn't agree with my choices and can't understand why I want kids and be a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't just not understand, she critiques it at every turn, to the point where my husband can't stand her and has banned her from our house. We also don't allow our kids to spend time with her. I've never liked her, and the peak of my dislike for her was back when I was in college. I got into a relationship with Rob. I thought he was perfect. He seemed kind, funny, and attentive. I won't go into details, but that relationship went from good to absolutely terrible. It only stopped when I called the cops on him. He was arrested, and I finally had the courage to leave and tell my family and friends. When I told Anna, I'm sure you can guess her reaction. She had no sympathy and asked why I hadn't seen the signs. She was sure I had ignored them just to have a hot, bad boyfriend and said, "Look where that's gotten you." I didn't argue with her. Frankly, I was tired. I told her that if she ever got into an abusive relationship, she should never call me because the only thing I do is laugh at her. I stopped trying with her and just focused on my husband, kids, and my 2 other sisters. Now on to the present. Anna's husband of 7 years put his hands on her a couple of days ago. I don't know the full story, but they were arguing and he ended up slapping her mid-fight, as well as calling her horrible names. She left and went to our parents, who called the cops on her behalf, and he was arrested. My dad told me about it and asked me to bake something for her to cheer her mood up. I told him no, that I'm not going to show care to that woman. I mean, she has our parents and her dog. What more could she need? It was a phone call and I guess on speaker, because Anna freaked out and started yelling at me. I told her again, why should I care about a woman who ignored bad signs and got into a relationship with a bad man just because he was a doctor? She was hysterical, so I cut the call because her voice alone irritates me. Lol. My mom called me and said I need to sympathize with her and that she won't talk to me until I do. I just said, fine, if she's willing to cut me off, then she's cutting off my husband and kids for a woman who barely visits them, even though she lives only 30 minutes away. My parents haven't talked to me since, and I honestly don't know if I was wrong. I'm tired of being the one who is understanding and nice to her when I'm the youngest, and she can't spare a bit of empathy. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She can't refuse to give care and empathy and then expect the same back. Treat people how you want to be treated, but also treat people with the same respect you have for yourself. She didn't have either of those, so if your parents want to deal with it, let them. Focus all your energy on your family. At least you didn't marry your abuser. Tell mom, I'm treating sis the same way you treated me when my ex abused me. She set the standard. I'm just playing by her rules. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I would write or talk to your parents and tell them what your sister did and said when you were abused. You are only following her example of treating her the same way. This way, they are aware of how rotten she was to you. Not the a-hole with a caveat. Do your parents know the extent to which your sister has alienated you? Or are they putting this down to sibling rivalry? Excellent point. It's important that the parents understand why you are behaving the way you are, OP. You do need to talk to them about it outside of when your sister is on the phone. I hate when people have someone on a call and don't tell you. It's highly inconsiderate and downright rude. Anyhow, be sure they understand how she treated you when you were in that situation. They will probably think you need to be more understanding since you have been through it. Tell them it's the opposite. You needed support then and she belittled you. Because of that, you cannot support her now. It was hurtful and you are still angry. Parents tend to leap to support the child that's having emotional stress. It's pretty natural. They just need to understand why you can't. If they push it, just go low or no contact for a little while until things die down. Then you can have a talk with them about what happened and why you had to stand on your ground. You probably sounded pretty cold and heartless to them in this situation. Once it calms down and they're able to look at the bigger picture, they may be better able to understand where you are coming from.